Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Stimola Live. I hope everyone is happy and healthy and doing just fine this morning. It is a bright, sunny, but cold day up here in Burlington, Vermont. And I'm going to share with you two of the picture books that I have written. My name is Tanya Lee Stone, and I generally write little known or unknown stories about real people who do amazing things. Some of the books that I write are for older readers, like Almost Astronauts, which is an incredible story about women who tried to be astronauts long before women were allowed to be astronauts. Or Courage Has No Color, which is again a story about an incredible group of African American men who wanted to be the first Black paratroopers in World War II. I'm going to just ignore that because when we are live in these new days of videoing, we just ignore things like that. Another one is called The Good, the Bad, and the Barbie, which is the whole history of the Barbie doll and what we think about her, good or bad. The Good, the Bad, and the Barbie. Now, I'm going to read two picture books to you today, and the picture books that I tend to write are mostly about women, but not all about women. And one of them I'm going to read to you is about an American artist named Alexander Calder. And the other one is going to be about the first woman doctor in America, and her name was Elizabeth Blackwell. But I will just quickly show you some of these other extraordinary women I've written about in case you want to look them up later. This one, Who Says Women Can't Be Computer Programmers, illustrated by the remarkable Marjorie Priceman, is about Ada Lovelace. Now, Ada Lovelace basically imagined what computers could do 100 years before computers were invented. Can you believe that? And The House That Jane Built is about Jane Addams, who was the person who, among many other things, brought the idea of community centers to America. What would we do without those? And Elizabeth Leads the Way. I hope you know who Elizabeth Cady Stanton was. If you identify as female, and when you turn 18, you will have the right to vote, and it is because of her. So Elizabeth Cady Stanton, a person you should know. And last but not least, if you are a Monopoly fan, is this very fascinating story about, again, a woman who invented this game long before a guy said he invented it. So that's the whole story in here. Now, without further ado, I will read two of my books to you this morning. The first one is called Who Says Women Can't Be Doctors? A story about Elizabeth Blackwell, written by me, Tanya Lee Stone, and illustrated again by the remarkable Marjorie Priceman. I'll bet you've met plenty of doctors in your life, and I'll bet lots of them were women. Well, you might find this hard to believe, but there once was a time when girls weren't allowed to be doctors. How are we doing there? Nice. Back in the 1830s, there were lots of things girls couldn't be. Girls were only supposed to become wives and mothers, or maybe teachers or seamstresses. Being a doctor was definitely not an option. What do you think changed all that? Or should I say, who? Elizabeth Blackwell, that's who. A tiny wisp of a girl who wanted to explore around every corner and who never walked away from a challenge. This was a girl who had once carried her brother over her head until he backed down from their fight. A girl who tried sleeping on the hard floor with no covers just to toughen herself up. A girl who climbed up to her roof and stretched out as far as possible with a spyglass to see what was happening on the other side of town. But she hadn't always wanted to be a doctor. Actually, blood made her queasy. One time, her teacher used a bull's eyeball to show students how eyes work. Elizabeth was repulsed. And she hadn't always wanted to help the sick. She had no patience for being sick herself. Whenever she felt ill, she simply went outside for a walk. Once when she was little, she hid in a closet until she felt better. She hated anyone fussing over her. Excuse me. So why did she become the first woman doctor? Because one person believed she could and told Elizabeth she was just the kind of smart, determined girl who could change the world. That person was Mary Donaldson. When Elizabeth was 24, she went to visit her friend who was very ill. Mary told Elizabeth she would have much preferred being examined by a woman. She urged Elizabeth to consider becoming a doctor. At first, Elizabeth could not believe her ears. Even if a girl could be a doctor, why would she want to be one? But Mary's idea gnawed at Elizabeth. A doctor. A female doctor. Elizabeth thought about it the second she got up in the morning. She thought about it during sewing circles. She thought about it over tea. She even dreamed about it at night. Finally, Elizabeth asked doctors and friends. Some thought it was a good idea, but didn't think there was any way it could be done. Others said it wasn't right. Women are too weak for such hard work. Women aren't smart enough. Ha 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 ha. Some people actually laughed at her. They thought she was joking. Elizabeth didn't see anything funny about a woman becoming a doctor. Elizabeth thought it was a fine idea, and her family supported her. She worked as a teacher to earn money and applied to a handful of medical schools, but they all sent back the same answer: no. See all those people laughing at her? How rude, right? No women allowed. She tried other schools. More letters arrived at her door. One by one, the answer was always the same: no. No, 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 no. 28 no's in all. In different ways, the letters all said the same thing. Women cannot be doctors. Women should not be doctors. But Elizabeth didn't believe in couldn't or shouldn't. She refused to give up. She was as stubborn as a mule. Quite rightly. One day, an envelope arrived from a college. She opened it and everything changed. The answer was yes. Elizabeth packed her bags for Geneva Medical School in upstate New York. The townspeople were expecting her. As she walked down the street, some pointed and stared. They whispered to themselves that she must be wicked or crazy. Elizabeth thought that at least the students wanted her there. Except they didn't. The teachers had let the students vote on whether or not to allow Elizabeth to come. And the boys, figuring the school would never really accept a girl, said yes. They planned to turn the whole thing into a big joke. But the joke was on them. Their raucous laughter turned to silence as the ladylike Elizabeth took her seat. They wondered what kind of girl she was. The kind of girl who wouldn't take the bait. Some thought a girl wouldn't be able to keep up, except Elizabeth did keep up, often studying past midnight. Elizabeth proved she was as smart as any boy. And soon, the boys wanted to know what Elizabeth thought about this or that. It took the townspeople longer to accept her. Some people are afraid of anything new or different. Not Elizabeth. On January 23rd, 1849, Elizabeth graduated with the highest grades in the whole class. She had become the first woman doctor in America. Although many people were proud, others were angry. One doctor even wrote, quote, "I hope for the honor of humanity that she will be the last." And you see him down here, grumbling off the page. But as you know, she certainly was not. The end. That is the story of Elizabeth Blackwell. Next up, we have Sandy's Circus. Sandy's Circus, written by me, again, Tanya Lee Stone, and illustrated by Boris Kulikov, an amazing illustrator whose work you are about to delight in. Boris started this book right on the end papers. That's what these pages are called that are taped to the board, to the front board of the book. They're called end papers. And these are Boris's illustrations of all of Alexander Calder's tools. And then he starts in right on the title page too, with this interesting illustration. I wonder what's going to happen and what is in that trunk and who is that woman flying above him. Okay, here we go. There once was an artist named Alexander Calder, only he didn't call himself Alexander, and he didn't call the things he made art. Everyone called him Sandy. He had been making objects since he was a kid. Sandy's mother was a painter, his father was a sculptor, and even though they moved from Pennsylvania to Arizona to California to New York and back to California, his parents always made sure Aunt Sandy had a workshop and tools. He made his friends toys and jewelry from scraps of wood, leather, and wire he would pick up off the street. Sandy built his sister Peggy a castle for her doll, complete with a moat. He and Peggy made toy animals and played circus in the workshop. Even though Sandy loved creating things, he didn't always want to be an artist. He went to college and learned more about making things by studying to be an engineer. Sandy had different jobs, but never really liked any of them. Then he worked as a fireman in the boiler room of a ship. One night he was sleeping up on deck, sailing between San Francisco and New York. When he woke, he was awestruck. On one side of the ship was a fiery red sunrise. On the other, the full moon shone like a silver coin. The sight made Sandy want to go to art school, and he did. There's the sun. Isn't that beautiful? Artists need to work. A newspaper hired Sandy to draw the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. For 2 weeks, day and night, he went to the stadium, drawing as many different parts of the circus as he could. He loved sketching the elephants, the flying trapeze, the lion tamer, and the dancers. Sandy sat in different parts of the theater to see from up high, from down low, and off to the side. The next year, 1926, he decided to go to Paris. Why Paris? Because that city was alive with art. And Sandy said, quote, In Paris, it's a compliment to be called crazy. Sandy rode through the streets of Paris on his orange bicycle. He carried a roll of wire around his shoulders and a pair of pliers in his pocket. And there's the muse again, following him. When Sandy bumped into a friend, out came the wire and pliers. He would twist and bend and curl while he chatted. And before they said adieu, Sandy would give his friend a gift. Voila! A small portrait of the person made of wire. One day, Sandy made a little wire lion. He built a colorful cage for the lion. Of course, since the lion was a wild animal, it needed a tamer, so Sandy made him too. Then he made high wire walkers and a high wire for them to walk on, and a safety net in case they should fall, and a flying trapeze and a red stage. Sandy started to see a whole circus come to life before his eyes. Then he really got going. His huge hands worked with tiny pieces of wire, cork, cloth, buttons, yarn, string, leather, paper, and bits of wood. He twisted and shaped and curled and cut and curved until Sandy was ready to put on a big top circus show. His circus filled 2 suitcases. Click, click. Sandy set up the stage with his animals and performers wherever and whenever he could. He went back and forth from Paris to New York, those suitcases always along for the ride. During one stay in New York, Sandy made more animals and acrobats. His circus grew to fill 5 suitcases. When it was showtime, out came the suitcases. Click, 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 click. Friend wound up the gramophone to start the music. Sandy boomed a greeting to his audience in the voice of his wire ringmaster, Monsieur Loyal, announcing the performance was about to begin. On his knees, this bear of a man worked the springs and strings and levers of his clever creations, making them leap and run and dance. Hear the whistle blow, horns blare, see the flying flippalinis flip. The lion roars, the lion tamer tames, seals bark, flipping a ball from nose to nose. Rigolo, the strong man, bends to his toes and raises a huge barbell high above his head, showing off for his beloved bearded lady. Horses gallop, birds flutter, dogs dance on whirly twirly legs. Cativo the clown plays tricks on his fellow performers. He dangerously distracts the axe thrower just as he hurls his axe at the wire girl. Oh no, injury under the big top. Never fear, help is on its way. Sirens wail. 2 wire rescue workers race in to carry the girl off on a teeny tiny stretcher. Sometimes the show went on for hours. There were chariot races and bucking broncos, a belly dancer, camel, and kangaroo. Sandy crawled on his hands and knees, arranging his wire animals and circus folk, setting them in motion to perform for the crowd. After the grand finale, he brought them all back for a bow. Encore, encore, the crowd laughed and clapped and cheered for more. Word spread throughout Paris and New York. Everyone wanted to see Sandy's circus. They loved how full of joy and fun it was. They loved how Sandy's work was always in motion. People said he has discovered in playing a whole new world. His art has the force of an ocean. Sandy delighted in crafting things that moved. He made new kinds of art, hanging his shapes up, connecting pieces to each other with wire and letting the air drift and spin them into motion. In doing so, he turned ordinary objects into extraordinary art and invented the very first mobiles. And it all started with Sandy's magical, movable circus. The end. I hope you enjoyed those books. And if you would like to find more of my books to enjoy on your own, just go to my website, tanyastone.com, or any independent bookstore online. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and you stay safe and healthy.